Hello and welcome to episode 67 of the Rough Drafted Homegames podcast. I'm Yazeed and this is Joseph.
Hello.
I hope that one day we have actually like a bloopers reel of us really messing up this intro, because there's been times where it's gone completely off the rails, and this is one of those times.
We ruin the intros more often than we get them right.
Which is hilarious because we're purposely like trying to make the intro standardized, and that has not worked so far.
I still don't know if this one's a success or if we're going to re-record it.
No, we're rolling with this one because now's the part in the podcast where I say we got some interesting home games topics. We got some Dockerization happening, some spectating going on, and some terrain building. But before we get to any of that, how's it going, Joseph? What's new with you, my man?
It's good. Been doing some kind of not podcast stuff this past week, so not a whole lot going on in my life except some video games and then a lot of home games stuff, I guess. Watched Promised Neverland, which we can talk about in a little bit. But I guess my main thing is, did you see the news today that they're going to close down, or that they're shutting down the internal development studio for Stadia?
I did, yes.
It's been 13 months or something crazy like that for Stadia, and it's already like Google's given up.
I mean, isn't that like pretty part of the course for Google?
Yes, I guess I'm just like, bummed out that they really did that again. Like, it's become such a meme at this point of them just going with an idea for a little bit, not investing what they should into it, and then just killing it. And I feel like Stadia was kind of it was kind of first, at least, to be really that thing of, hey, here's a controller and we're a big name, and try out this service that we have. It is, I guess, like I tried it when it came out, and I gave a little, I guess, review of it, which was, this is not ready yet, but it's super fucking cool. And I guess I just wish Google, okay, to be clear, they're not shutting down the entire service. They're just stopping development of internal games for it, which maybe in 5 years, Stadia is like a whole big service and takes off because of their deals with publishers or whatever. I personally don't see that happening. Excuse me. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I was just bummed out to hear that today.
Yeah, I feel like, I feel like they just kind of ran into a problem where I don't know who would go on to Stadia. Like, I don't know any of the big developers, like big publishers like EA has Origin, and I don't think they would put theirs on like a Stadia style platform. Ubisoft has Uplay or whatever it's called now. Steam is Steam, or Valve is Steam, and Microsoft has their like Xbox game stuff, which is really like, that's really popped off this year.
Yeah, Microsoft's stuff has. I think Ubisoft has a deal at least with someone to do the game streaming stuff. I don't know, but even if they get EA on it, or whoever, I don't know if they already are, but even if they do, who cares? Like, no one's playing this stuff because it's not good enough. And if someone is willing to spend a monthly fee and then also pay for games, and then just take the time to play, basically, if they're going to invest anything into games at this level to still spend $60 on a video game, they're probably going to spend at least $400 on a console. Even the Xbox Series S is $300. Like, yeah, you can't play this anywhere, but you're realistically not having a good gaming experience on your iPad at the Starbucks anyway.
Mm-hmm. I think it would have been really sick if they had put in a ton of money and made Stadia good for the Cyberpunk release, because I think a lot of people ran into the problem of like, well, I can't play this game because I don't have like my PC's not spec'd out enough, or like the consoles aren't good enough to play it. But if Stadia was like, but you could play it on Stadia, I think that would have captured a lot more people's attention.
I think that was a thing. I think because they were even, I saw a deal where it was, if you buy Cyberpunk, you get a free controller or something. Like, they were doing some sort of bundle or promo with Cyberpunk on Stadia. Because I think they saw that kind of opportunity to capitalize on the fact that no one could play that shit. But even then, it's a short-term thing. I mean, people can get into the game and see, oh, okay, well, maybe I have fewer problems than other people who have played this game, but it's still got its own problems in the sense that there's this input latency, there's this general kind of whatever, just the issues that you would have with an online game like that. Like, you're going to get stutters, you're going to get problems that you wouldn't get if you were running it locally. And I guess I'm so big on Stadia in general, or specifically because Homegames is like the same technology and a very different thing. And it's not the same technology. I mean, like, we don't have their hot algos, to learn like their whole predictive stuff to know what you're going to do in the game. Like, we have none of that. But in the sense that you don't need to have a console, you don't need to have a whatever, and you can just play these games kind of from anywhere, in the sense that, anywhere in your house, or maybe one day something else, but of like, oh, play games on your phone, play games on your whatever. We just don't have we're not putting Doom on Homegames. Like,
yeah. And maybe we could put like the old Doom, the one that they put on like everything. They're like, here's an alarm clock, we put Doom on it.
Seriously. Something like that. But I guess that's just interesting. Like, what do people think of that whole thing? And then seeing Google, I guess, having a hard time get the idea out of what Stadia is. Because even for me, someone who is, like a techie person or whatever, when I first bought Stadia and I got a thing that was just a controller and then a Chromecast, I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, where's the thing? Where's the box? And then realizing, like, oh, there is no box, and that's the magic of it. But even seeing a company like Google, who has a hard time getting the message out, like, here's how this thing works, I guess it kind of, I don't know, it's just interesting. Because I do think on some level that stuff is the future. Like, I don't think people are going to need giant boxes in their house to play games.
I kind of hope that is true, but I also, like, a part of me hopes that's not true. Because I think there's, like, something to be said about, like, having your PC or your Xbox or whatever, like your Nintendo console, whatever that's going to be called.
Yeah, I think it can probably exist like movies, right? Like, movies, to some extent, I mean, to a large extent, have been removed from people's houses. Like, you just have Netflix, you have Hulu, you have whatever, and you just watch stuff on whatever your devices are, but you don't have a movie collection the way that people might have 15, 20 years ago. And people who are into movies are like, oh yeah, I have this 4K Blu-ray player, and I have this surround sound set up, and I have these 4K Blu-rays. I'm watching, pure, uncompressed, whatever the hell, because that's what I'm into. But it's more of a niche thing. It's not the standard whatever, in the way that it's like, oh wow, this fucking guy, he's hardcore. He has a computer,
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll be more interesting. I mean, isn't it like a whole deal about, like, our technology keeps miniaturizing? So that's a hard word to get out in one go.
Miniaturizing?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, graphics cards are still huge. Like, there's still this if you're going to have a 2080 Ti or whatever, you have some sort of embarrassing machine with RGB underneath your desk, probably. You want me to call you out?
Actually, mine is an RGB. It does have, like, a white light attached, like, built into it for some unknown reason.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I guess that's all I'm saying, is that I wish Stadia had tried harder. And Google had stuck with it. Yeah.
Honestly, like, I really wish that they had pushed with, like, for the Cyberpunk stuff, because I think it would have been a really interesting, like, test for them, from, like, just having, even if, like, I don't know, 5% of the people who are having problems playing Cyberpunk use Stadia to try it out. That's a lot of data for them to get. They probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but even then, is someone who is playing this stuff on an Xbox One, like, okay, I just spent $60 on Cyberpunk on this thing, and maybe I only buy a couple games a year. I really have a hard time thinking that person is going to be interested in signing up for your weirdo streaming service where, you manage everything for me and I can play the game, but I don't know if that person's willing to make that extra investment. Someone who doesn't already have, like, a PC or the pro version of whatever these consoles are. Like, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if you looked at the Cyberpunk subreddit, people were spending, like, hundreds of dollars to make jackets before the game even came out.
So, yeah, but those people are psychopaths. That's like 1% of 1%. Most people playing Cyberpunk are not on that subreddit.
That is true. But what I'm saying was that there probably was a subsection of the population that would have tried, that is more users than Stadia would have gotten otherwise. You know what I mean?
They did push it, and then that didn't work for them, I guess. So then they shut that shit down.
Yeah, that is kind of a letdown. I think what's interesting about that is that instead of having, like, a hosted cloud service, we're going for, like, you host it yourself, but with maybe, like, us hosting a cloud service, like, paid content. Which, I mean, looking at Stadia may or may not work, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess it's like it's a fundamentally different thing because personally, I guess just seeing how I think we've talked about this before, but how the internet kind of just was more free 15, 20 years ago. Not in the sense of, like, I'm not making this argument that you can't do what you used to be able to do on the internet, but like the audience is different. Internet users are different, and kind of what people make and do is different. And a lot of it is so corporatized, I guess, in a way that I'm not trying to be like a hippie or like a corporations, but like at some level, like, everything is just pop-up banner with like a Facebook thing. Follow us on this and like us on this, and everything is Facebook and everything is Twitter and everything is like big companies. It kind of goes away from this whole like the beauty of the internet, which is like my computer's talking to yours. That's fucking nuts, you know. So like Homegames is kind of like, okay, well, maybe if people like, if there's this big pushback, like a cultural pushback on the centralized thing of like, I don't really do things unless Google lets me do them, then that'll be a cool thing for us. And like, in my opinion, obviously, I would hope that becomes more of a thing, kind of a pushback on the big tech stuff.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be funny if like your radio test becomes like heavily used.
No, that radio test sucks ass and it doesn't work, so that won't be used by anybody.
When it does get to when you do get it to work.
Yeah.
I think the idea of just some rando hopping on and just saying something and then everybody else having to hear it would be very funny.
Yeah. Like Banksy does his next piece on my radio.
Wouldn't that be wild?
Yeah. No, yeah, but then I guess besides that, my main thing this week, like I played a game called Hot Shot Racing, and I just wanted to shout it out quickly because it's probably my favorite game that I've played in a really long time. It's available on the Switch. I'm playing it on Steam. It's a dead simple arcade racer. It's like simple polygons, simple artwork, but it's like bright and colorful and vibrant, and the music is really nice, and it is exactly that. Like, it's a simple arcade racer. There's different characters with different cars, and there's different like stories, and they're all just one frame or whatever at the end of the game, like Street Fighter style, where there's basically no story. And yeah, I guess it's just great, simple, really cool racing, and it was just nice to kind of play that and then finish it and probably never go back after this week, but it was just perfect.
Wait, you beat the whole game in a week?
Yeah, kind of. So there's like Grand Prix levels, and there's 5 different ones, and there's different difficulties. So I beat every Grand Prix on the hardest difficulty, and then I beat the whole game with every character. So it's like, that's what I'm saying, it's simple. You can see the things that you could do. It's like, okay, play these levels with these people, beat the story, do the whatever, and you do it, and you're done. Unless you want to keep playing the game, you know, local multiplayer or whatever, but I don't. So
yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty cool though. I mean, I like simple racing games. Actually, I really like simple games like that to play with other people.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, the beauty of it is just that it's so simple. They didn't try to like Joseph it, which was just like, hey, we have this thing, let's add this. Someone was there being like, no, fuck that, we made a racing game, that's all we made. Like, simple mechanics, and it's just, yeah, that's all this game is.
Yeah, I really do enjoy the simple games. I don't know if you remember, but there was a game called Speedrunners that me and JC all got.
The one I ruined.
Yeah, it is the one you ruined, which is part of why I get to bring it up now. Yeah, it was just it was really simple, fun racing game, and then Joseph went and bought the PewDiePie skin for the game, and then kept doing his PewDiePie impression while we're playing at like 2:00 in the morning, which, while at first was funny, very quickly meant that we'd never play the game again.
I think that's the last time we played a game together as a group like that. I single-handedly destroyed our friendship with that skin.
No, I still play with you. We played Rainbow Boys afterwards.
True.
Speaking of Rainbow Boys, actually, I got back into Siege. I really like it now.
What I feel like that game has changed since it came out, but I don't know what changed.
I mean, like, the basic mechanics of the game are still there. You still pick your like operator, which is from like a anti-terrorism unit from somewhere around the world. But there's just so many more operators now that the game is one, to me, it's crazy because I don't know what like 90% of them do or like how to get around them. So I'm just trying to like figure it out. But what I like about that game is like it's tight and technical gameplay, and that like the shooting is accurate, the movement's good, like all of that's like tight and accurate. But then you add on top of it like the creativity of like you can blow up walls and stuff to just like suddenly like in an instant go from like, oh, they have this room secured to being like, nah, we blew up that wall and now we're just gonna like force push in and we're just gonna like ruin their strategy because they're not at all like paying attention to that wall. I think that's like fun and cool in a way that like CS:GO isn't, because like CS:GO, Valorant, those games are like, well, here's a wall, you can't really like get through this wall, so you know. But
yeah, it's less strategy stuff. It's more just like shoot that guy.
Yeah. I like the creativity in Siege more, and also they fixed up, I think, what was like one of our problems with Terrorist Hunt, and they changed it up a bit to being called Training Ground, which is you still have like an objective, but it's a little bit different now, where like one of the objectives could be like you have to protect the hostage and the terrorists come to you, or it's like you have to defuse the bomb. Like basically it's like play, but it's against like waves of AI instead of against people.
Yeah.
And I think I've had a lot of fun just playing it solo, but I don't know if you can even, I don't know like what all you can do in that. I've just been playing it like solo to figure out what the people I want to play as can do, basically.
Yeah. I tried that mode a couple times too, trying to do the same thing of just trying to learn it and get into it, because I felt like jumping into multiplayer, I wasn't getting a really good chance, or wasn't able to give it a good chance to see if I liked it, because it was just like being thrown into the fire or whatever. But even in that little solo mode, I just didn't like playing it as much as I like even solo Terrorist Hunt in Vegas 2. Like the game, they added complexity to the way that the game is played, like more chunk, more heft, which is intentional and all that. I just don't like it as much as I liked it in Vegas 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. What I like about it, or what I've come to like about it, I guess, in comparison to Vegas 2 is like in Vegas 2, like every gun has to be like comparable because you have access to all of them, and like all of your gear has to be like comparable in terms of like utility or effectiveness or whatever. But because in Siege that's not the case, some gear is just really good and like it's good in certain situations. This is kind of the same as like Vegas 2, but like even more so. Like the gear is more like min-max. Like the shotgun's like really good at entering a room, but like super garbage at everything else. And like your handgun can like do this, but like can't do that. So I've really liked like just learning all of that kind of stuff. What I don't like about it is how much people talk in the multiplayer.
Isn't that the point?
Yeah, it's supposed to like super technical and tactical, but it's just like the people who. There's like two kinds of people. There's like me, where I just do like a shout out of like, oh hey, like this is where they're at, or like something like that. And there's the other kind where that's like either they're trying to be a cheerleader or they just call you out. Like, like I got called out and I was like, this is like my third game. Like I don't know what I'm doing. How dare you?
Yeah. I think that might be another thing for me, because I think that game really does depend on the voice chat stuff, but I just refuse. I refuse to talk to people I don't know, so I just don't. And then that makes my experience worse, because people are either, you know, like they basically have an incomplete team and I'm fucking them over, or everyone is like me and there's no team and the whole game is kind of broken. So I'm not compatible with that kind of a thing, I guess, which is fine.
Yeah, if I could get like 5 people to play it, I think that'd be cool, but that's slim pickings, because when I asked, everyone was like, oh yeah, I'd play with you, and they're like, oh wait, I'd have to like get the Uplay thing. And they were like, no.
Yeah, but if we had 5 people together, I would rather play Vegas 2. If you're like, oh no, let's play Siege, I'll be like, oh no, fuck you, I'm gonna go play Vegas 2.
Yeah, I mean that's probably true. I don't know. I've come to enjoy playing Siege.
Nice, that's good. I don't mean to shit on Siege. That's cool. Yeah.
No, I mean it's just a different game than Vegas 2, and I think that was like one of my original like complaints about it, was that like, oh, but it's not Vegas 2. But I come to like realize like, oh, it doesn't. This game wasn't supposed to be Vegas 2. Kind of like it was supposed to be like, different.
For sure. I guess I just wish they gave us a version of Vegas 2 that wasn't it didn't feel like it was going to fall apart at any moment, like the version currently on Steam.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't know what login this is using, but it's automatically logging me in every time, and I hope to God that this keeps happening, because I don't know what I'll do if I forget this login.
Yeah, I don't know. But you can also like just make something up, and sometimes it'll just like, yep, that works. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I have a feeling that whole setup is running on some guy's microwave in like Kazakhstan or something.
Ubisoft actually just has accidentally left their server on, but like only 15 people connect, so they don't even notice it.
Yeah. It's
like one is like a power outage or like a power surge or something, and the servers are just never gonna.
Yeah.
I wonder how they sunset that game. I wonder how they sunset, like, what is it called, like DRM? Like, I wonder how they sunset those games.
You mean like the always online DRM stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess at a certain point, maybe the game is old enough where they're like, all right, well, fuck it. If you got it illegally, cool. But this game is $3, so we don't even care. You know?
Like, the $3 is literally only for you to, like, sign in.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting though. It's kind of the whole problem of the online anything that depends on a company to confirm that your shit is good. Actually, speaking of that, I had a thing. Oh, whatever. It was a Homegames thing. I'll talk about it later. But verifying that you are a person and that your software isn't a virus, like, costs money, which is weird. But
whoa, I did not know that.
Yeah, like the whole Windows warns you that Homegames is a virus. Like, if you want to get around that, you have to pay for a thing to give you like a certificate, in the same way that we have a certificate that says that we own Homegames.io. We have another certificate that says like, yeah, we did this. We signed this binary with this thing. Anyway, my point is that stuff has a cost, and so the problem of a game that doesn't actually need any of that stuff, at a certain point, like, you just fuck yourself over if you design it with this thing in mind, where one day this game just won't work, and that's totally the fault of our own business practice. It's like awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But did you want to talk about Promised Neverland? Because I also watched it through episode 3.
Yeah. It's cool still. I guess like things are happening in season or episode 3 where it's like, I guess spoilers, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
So the mom definitely knows these kids are fucking around, and it's kind of on. Like, the whole tension of everybody knows everything, but no one is acting like they know everything is pretty cool. I'm still not super engaged with it. Like, it's fun to kind of watch this, but I don't really care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's kind of my problem, too. I honestly, this is one of those things where it's like the writers are like, they stumbled upon a great premise, and they don't know how to write characters, because I feel like by episode 3 I could have cared about these people, but instead I'm like
yeah, it's like the girl, and then the weird looking dude with the white hair, and then that like snarky motherfucker, and I don't care about any of them. Like, they can all die, and I'll be like, all right, so like, where the demons come from, that's all I care about.
Yeah, I kind of want to know what's going on with the rest of the world more than I care about these kids. So if they don't make them interesting, I might just read a synopsis.
And they don't really talk about the world, but like, this episode was the first one where they mentioned that there are higher ups. Like, this is an industry that they participate in, and there's like this market, and all that kind of stuff. So it paints this picture of like, oh shit, this isn't some secret thing. This is like this is an accepted industry, like a standard industry.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. What is your idea? Do you think that the people have been like run by these demon things now, or do you think that's like a partnership, or like what?
I don't know. I guess I would feel weird guessing, because I'm not even quite sure what the problem is. Like, the problem is obviously, well, one problem is that there's these demons that eat children, apparently, or whatever, their brains. Mm-hmm. And there's these farms who are run by these people who have like this corporate ladder, because one of the things in episode 3 was the whatever subordinate person who was like, oh, well, if I don't tell the higher ups about this or whatever, then this lady will get fired and I get to move up. Mm-hmm. This whole thing. So it's like, okay, well then there's these higher ups that are not the demons. Otherwise, you work for the demons, but like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's all just like bullshit. I just want to know what the point is. Like, even if the story specifics play out to be whatever, it's like, what are they trying to say? Like, what do the demons represent? Like, what are you trying to say by there's like these kids who are growing up in these like farms, like we factory farm cattle in a way. Like, what's your commentary? You know?
My guess on that, this is completely uneducated. I have no idea. But my guess as of episode 3 is that it's supposed to be a stand-in for Japan's hierarchical, like, corporate ladder. Where, like, the kids are, like, the new people. And then, like, your manager pretends to care about you. But really, they're just the subordinate of somebody who just wants to use you. Like, literally, like, chew you up and spit you out. And, like, not for your body, but for your brain. Like, what you can think. And that's like what they want to own, basically. But I'm not sure if that's how accurate that is yet.
And it's like the brains are going to waste because they're doing, whoa.
And the reason that they're like young kids in this case is because like when you enter your workforce in Japan, I didn't know this actually. I was talking to Ryan about it, or one of our friends who lives in Japan now. But apparently that when you go to college there, when you leave college with your degree, you may not work under your degrees. Like, say I got a degree in math. I may go work for an accounting firm, or I could go work for, like, an entirely different field where it's, like, completely unrelated to it. And I really have to, like, learn the job my first year. So, like, your first year there, they just, like, pay you and teach you how to do stuff at that job. Like, they literally just, like, teach you how to do that whole job.
That's kind of how things are here. I mean, a lot of people don't work in the industry they think they're going to work in.
I mean, that's true, but I think the way that he explained it to me was like even more so. Like here, when you go in for computer science, kind of the expectation is you're going to work in the computer science field. But there, it's like you went in for art and then they ended up as a software engineer. Yeah. And you don't know anything about coding. You just have a degree and they're like, oh, that means you are dedicated. So now you get to work for us.
Interesting
kind of approach. But that's why my guess right now, as of episode 3, is that the kids are stand-ins for like new corporate employees, and then you have like your middle managers, which is like the moms, and they're like responsible for like the directors, the grandmas, who are responsible eventually like, to the bosses, which may be like a stand-in for like really shady owners. But I don't know. This could all just be completely made up. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting though. I mean, it was kind of a, like I said, it's a show to just kind of have on. I'm not super engaged with it. It's like, okay, I might have missed the last 3 minutes because I was doing dishes, but like, fucking who cares? You know, like that kind of a thing.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Also, this is like a minor point, but is it just me, or is the helper lady kind of like a stereotype in a negative way?
The one who was singing?
Yeah.
I don't know. She struck me as like funny because she was singing like her entire plan about how she was going to overthrow the like hierarchy and trick everybody. It was like,
yeah.
And like if you think about a human adult recording those lines in a booth, it's kind of funny, but I don't know if they meant it to be funny.
I don't know if they did or not. You are right that it is funny. I don't know. It's hard. It was hard for me to tell. I was like, she's kind of creepy, but I don't know if she was like character designed to be creepy or if it's like accidentally.
Oh, I think she's meant to be creepy because there's even the part when they're all playing hide and go seek and she's just like found you or whatever. Like that shit's actually kind of scary.
Breaks the tree. Yeah. I was like, oh god.
Yeah.
Or when she's like, I'm an adult, you're a kid, I'm gonna get you. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, stuff is happening in it. It's just kind of I still don't really care, but it's something to have on.
Yeah, I agree. That show is like okay for me, but I've been watching more of She-Ra, and goddamn, I love that show so much. I think I'll probably finish it like this week or next week.
Nice.
But it's quite good.
Yeah. Well, for show updates, really quick, I'm also still watching The Sopranos. Season 2 is kind of slow, but it's still good. So
nice. Yeah. Nice. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about for Homegames?
No, that's everything. That's not Homegames stuff.
So I wanted I wanted to leave my dog stuff for the tail end, if you know what I mean.
All right, that's gonna do it. Thanks for listening to episode.
No, I just wanted to do my weekly checkup for my dog stuff. In agility, we learned to jump over stuff and run through a tunnel, which in my head I was like, dogs love to jump over stuff and run into tunnels, but in reality, it's like you kind of have to teach them how to jump over stuff and also how to run through tunnels. And it turned out that my dog did not like to run through the tunnels until we really loaded her up on treats and made it worth her while. But she finally got it.
How do you train her to run through a tunnel? Do you have to like crawl through it or just kind of run alongside it?
You basically you stand on one side and you make the tunnel as small as possible and you give them a treat so they know what they're going to get. And then you put the treat into the tunnel and they go into the tunnel to get it. And then you put it further into the tunnel and eventually you throw it through the tunnel and they go through the tunnel to get it. And then you call them back holding a treat, like showing them like, I have a treat if you come back through the tunnel. And you only give them the treat when they come back through the tunnel. You don't let them, like, if they walk around the tunnel, you hold it, you close your hand around the treat so they can't get it.
Yeah.
And then you just like make the tunnel longer. Because eventually, like in a dog agility, the tunnel is usually like a
substantial
like a
tube.
Yeah, it's like a tube that like is like rounded so that when they run in, they have to like make a bend in it. Like take the bend in there. So yeah, but we're not quite there yet. We're still getting there.
Take the bend makes me laugh. I don't know why. It's like vaguely sexual and weird, but not.
I mean, it is kind of funny. I didn't mean it to be. But the other thing, too, about it is, like, obedience for dogs is, like, cheap. Because all you need is a dog and treats. Basically, that's all you need. But for agility, I am going to the hardware store this weekend, or I'm going to a couple hardware stores this weekend to get material to build obstacles for my dog to do.
Yeah, that sounds intense.
Like I have to make jumps, right? I have to make a tunnel. I have to make a teeter-totter. I have to make what's called a high walk. I have to make weave poles. I have to like figure out how to do all this stuff too, and I'm an idiot, so this is going to be interesting.
That's like an entire home renovation project. It's not just like a weekend.
Well, I only practice like 2 or 3 things per week, right? Because I get new stuff, but I need to like do the backlog.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't do any of that. That sounds like a lot of work.
Well, hopefully it'll all be worth when if everything goes as planned, her and I will both become search and rescue people, and then we'll save lives using all of this knowledge that we have.
Yeah.
And then it'll be worth.
Very cool.
But in the meantime, I have to figure out how to make a teeter-totter. And I'm an idiot. I don't know how to make a teeter-totter.
Nice. Well, good luck on that. Teeter-totter watch. That'll be the new...
I'll record and tweet out. How about that? I'll actually post a tweet for once in my life about when I finish the teeter-totter.
Yeah.
That's assuming I can get her to run the teeter-totter, because that's the other thing, is that certain things are very difficult to make her do. And other things are easy to make her do. So I don't know how to do this yet.
Well, I look forward to the new series, building a teeter-totter with Yazeed. Episode 1.
If I was really smart, what I would have done is made a YouTube vlog series from day one when I got her. And then by now I would have at least one viewer, me. And then they would just follow my journey with my dog from the first day I got her and all the like uncomfortableness I had around her at first, like now where it's like I have no idea where she is, but I know she's sleeping.
Yeah, I guess it's you could have been an influencer, but instead you're just here, existing.
I could have made millions.
Yeah.
No, but that's all for me for this week. So, you ready to move on to home games?
Yeah, home game stuff. So, for home game stuff this week, did a couple things.
Have home games music?
No.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't had home games music for like 30 episodes. So, way to catch on to that.
All I'm just completely stupid. I don't know what to tell you.
Home game stuff. Yeah. So I have two main focuses this week. I know I had said that I was going to do performance profiling, but I just didn't want to this week. It seemed like a lot of work, and I didn't want to do it. So I did spectators instead, which was second on my list. So basically, just flipped this one, and performance profiling. That one is going to be next for me, for real this time. But for this week, I did new Docker stuff for Homegames. Now that everything is combined into one kind of executable, I decided to add a Docker file for the Homegames kind of combination thing. So that works. The only problem is when Homegames is running in a Docker container, when it's pulling the local IP address to report to homegames.link for homegames.link to then say, okay, well, this public IP address maps to this private IP address. Basically, when it's in a Docker container, it's reporting the wrong IP address. It's reporting the IP address of the container and not the host machine. I don't know how to get that. I'll figure it out. But anyway, Docker container, that's basically done. And then the second thing, I recorded a demo of this for spectators. So people can watch that if they're interested on our YouTube channel. But it's the thing that we've talked about, which is people can join or spectate a game, and then they can drop out or drop in. So to say, okay, like I'm a spectator right now, I can hit this button and become a player. I'm a player, now I can hit this button and drop out and become a spectator. That was kind of a lot of work, but it wasn't super complicated. It was just like, this touches a lot of things, so I had to kind of be everywhere for that. But it's done, and it's like almost stable. It's not quite finished. I had like 4 pull requests open for Homegames, and then I was like, fuck this. I'm just going to push them all in because whatever. So I'm just going to go do this. And then I mentioned it when I closed the pull request too, but I mentioned this last week or the week before too. At a certain point, I'm going to take everything that I've been adding and clean it up in one big go and have kind of like a moderately large pull request that just touches a lot of the things that I've done lately and kind of just refines them for partially just to have code cleanup, but then another thing just for Yazeed to kind of have some familiarity with the stuff that I've changed, because I've just kind of blown a lot into master. But yeah, so we have spectators now in master. Pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, I saw the PRs open, and then I saw them close / get merged in, and I was like, all right.
Classic Joseph. Yeah. Well, because it was like, I have version 0.6.0, which has some like bug fixes. There were a couple bug fixes that I made. And little changes that I made before all this stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, and then this next change is 0.6.1. So I'm just going to base this one on 0.6.0. Okay, well, then I have this other spectator stuff, which I'm going to base on master. Oh, but master doesn't have these fixes. Fuck it. Okay, I'll base this one on 0.6.1. And then I had this little like queue of stuff that I just wanted to get into master. And I was like, well, fuck it. So anyway, that's how we got to where we are.
That's really cool, but I have a couple questions for you on Spectate. I didn't watch the video yet, so maybe you answer these in the video, but is there an easy way for me as a developer to have like a question, like ask, basically like what I want to know is like for my game, for color tag, if I'm spectating and the round ends, can somebody say like, oh, now I want to be a player, and they can easily switch between the two, or do they have to like leave and then come back in?
Yeah, so there's a button now in the bezel of the menu. So it's your name is in the top left now. So right next to that name is a button that will say join game. If you're a spectator, it'll just say join game. And that will be essentially the same as if you were to back out and then click join on the dashboard. So you could do that. It's kind of drop in like that. The game doesn't have any awareness that there's a spectator watching. So the game only knows players and all that kind of stuff. Spectators just get every frame that isn't intended for specific player IDs. Basically, like there's this public person like looking at everything, and if the player IDs for a game node aren't just for some people, like think of a card game. I have my hand, you have your hand. Spectators shouldn't be able to see either of our hands. So they're seeing every node that's not just for the two of us. So if you're making a game and you say this node can be seen by these people, spectators can't see those, but everything else they can. So
okay, so let's take color tag for example. how, because I wanted to add in vision, right? So each player has like their vision radius of what they can see.
Mm-hmm.
How does it affect spectators then? Can they just not see what individual players can see?
If
But
you
they can
have
see everything else?
if you have a vision radius and only a certain player can see what's in that vision radius, like if I say that player A has, this effect on this whatever, and this is the whitelisted player IDs for this effect, then only those players can see that. Spectators can't. If you say here's the person's vision and it's open, like it's available for all people to watch or to look at, no player ID whitelist or whatever, then everybody can see it.
Maybe I want to ask for a feature request then. Can we have a way of specifying that I want a spectator to be able to see that? Basically, let me explain like my idea. Basically, like, at the start of my game, there's going to be like a little modal that pops up and is just like a waiting game. So you see each player as they join in. So you have like a list of all the players that have joined, and then once the like host of the game is happy with the amount of players they say start game. Any player that tries to join afterwards is treated as a spectator because they can't enter into the instance like while that terrain is generating and everything and players are being placed. They have to wait until like next round. So they would be forced to spectate, but I wanted them to be able to just see the whole board. Would I have to like basically like build my own custom spectate then, as opposed to using the like pre-built one?
If you want like the board, like in the game design, if something is available to be seen by all players, it is able to be seen by spectators. What it doesn't cover is the case where you say every player in the game can see these things, but spectators can also see this other thing. Like I didn't want to have this special case for spectators because like I wanted it to be completely removed from the game itself, to be like, okay, all you can do is see things that aren't for specific people. So if it's public, it's public. If it's public, like anybody can see it, then that means that spectators can see it too. I guess if you wanted to have something where you gave like a special, when you say spectators in your game, it's really like a player in a queue to become a player. Because like in terms of Homegames terminology, like the spectator flag is false there. But if you wanted to say, queued up player in waiting room sees this other thing, well then at that point you still have player IDs. Like you have a player in your game, you get a handle new player callback, and then you say, at that point in your logic, I'm assuming you say, oh, I don't have room for more players, put them in a queue. But you have their IDs, so you can still go and like create your other custom assets for these players. But for a spectator, they would just see everything that's not whitelisted. If that makes sense. I suppose I could do something that says, add, like if it's the number 1 here, then that means that anybody can, like any spectators can see it, but not necessarily all players. But to me that just seems like the game shouldn't care about spectators, I guess, only in the sense that like the game, like I guess the core of the design is this stuff is always visible. But if some people should only see some things, then I specifically say who should see them. But by default, everything is visible. And so if that's the case, then the spectator should see everything that they would need to be able to see, as long as the game is kind of made correctly.
Well, I guess the problem is that everyone doesn't see the whole board in my game, right? For outside of your radius of vision, it's just a black screen. So each player really can only see 2 or 3 blocks around them, basically, like 2 or 3 4x4s around them. So each player can only see that, so they only see the map in that way. So I guess I'm struggling with the idea of like why wouldn't we be able to specify like what spectators can and can't see in the game? Like shouldn't the game be able to say like I want spectators to see this, as opposed to like building their own spectator, which sounds like what I would have to do. I wouldn't really like a real spectator, I guess. I'd be building like a pseudo spectator, like you said.
By making a node public, you're saying a spectator can look at it. By saying a game node is not for these specific people, you're saying it's available for all people. And by making it available for all people, which is something that you can do right now, to me that implies that you're making it available for spectators. And if it's not available for all people, then it's like, okay, well, I joined the game and I don't get to see certain things that are maybe available in a spectator view. But in another tab, I can open up a spectator view and see something that I'm not able to see in my game. Like, that seems wrong too, you know?
That is a good point.
I guess what I'm saying is a game developer having to do something special for a spectator, to me, is fuzzying that whole separation from the game logic and something special for spectators, because in my head, something special for spectators doesn't make a ton of sense, because that doesn't differ from something that everybody can see. A spectator kind of, in my head, implies that they can only see what everybody can see. But I might be thinking about this in a totally wrong way. I don't know. It's just in my head. It's like, oh, again, back to card games. Like, if I have a public table and a public deck and a public, let's say that whatever game I'm playing has the dealer's card be up front, like face up. That's a public card. Everybody on the, like, who's looking at the table can see that card. But everybody looking at the table can't see what's in everybody's hand. So if something is specifically for you in your hand, only you should be able to see it. But if a game developer has the option to say, oh, well, Yazeed's hand, people can look at it as spectators. It's like, well, that's blurring the line between, I would say that's like overstepping the line between the game and the magic of the spectator function. If you wanted to have this special view, again, it's for a player. Like, in this situation, it's like your game specifically says a player joined and they are queued up to join the next round. That is different from someone on a system level being able to look at a game without the game being aware of it.
Mm-hmm. You know? I mean, I guess my problem maybe then is for color tag, there is none of the nodes are available to everybody. Right, just the base board, right, is available to everybody. So if somebody was spectating, they'd be looking at a blank screen that was unmoving, kind of.
Yeah, but that's because your game is made in such a way that if you're not a specific player, you can't see anything. Like, because what specific player should the spectator be like aliased as in that case? Like, what should they be seeing through if not public?
Well, that's why I was saying I think maybe I see your point of spectator maybe should be outside of the game, but I think there may be a use case to making spectator in the game, or not spectator exactly, but like something that helps with that. But I'm not sure what that would be yet. So maybe as I go into that part of it, once I start like building the vision up and I start to see and feel like what I'm gonna run into with that, I'll have some more comments on it. Because like I said, I haven't seen the video yet. I don't know what spectate can or can't do. This is just like some questions I had. This isn't like totally not like a criticism of how you did spectator. I just don't know yet.
Yeah, and I guess what we could do is something like, I don't like this, but the game could say something like, hey, for spectators, instead of using this like public, like instead of looking at only public nodes, look at this list of IDs. So basically I can say I have a game and there's 5 different like perspective types or whatever, but when someone joins as a spectator, they get this perspective type, and that like perspective type is just one set of nodes that is available for this one player ID. So like I have 5 players, spectators see the game through this player's eyes. But again, like it's a slippery slope to me, because if you add in this like hook for people to know about spectators, then it creates this thing of like game logic can change based on spectators, and I just don't think it ever should. To me, it just doesn't, like, having that separation breaks the intent to me. But I might be wrong. Again, I don't know.
I don't know. I maybe because we don't have a game that really uses it yet. So this will be like the first game that we have that uses it. So once I get to that point, maybe I'll have some more concrete questions and maybe a little bit of asks. Yeah. Like a request for changes, maybe.
Here's an example. So there's a player visibility test, which has each player who joins gets these buttons, and when they click the button, it shows them a thing of text, and when they hit another button, it hides the text. This text is created for each individual person in the game. It's not for everybody. It's not a public thing. So I click it, I see it, I click it, I hide it. I don't care what the next guy is doing. If a spectator joins this game, they never see the text because they just see the buttons because the buttons are public, but the text that shows up is not. And to me, that makes sense because the buttons in this specific game are creating text for the person who clicked the button to see it. If the person is not able to click the button because they're not technically playing this, they're just observing, then that person should never see that text. In that specific case, it makes sense to me. In a case of an actual game where, you know, there's like player movement, I'm thinking of like Halo 3 Infection, maybe you would actually want to spectate something that most people couldn't see through, in the sense of when I'm playing the game, I can only see through the first person perspective and see the other guys. When I'm dead and I'm spectating, I can go into like a detached third person camera or whatever. That's different for me as a spectator, and the game has to know about it for that. So maybe we do need that. I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I think this may be one of those things where as we use it more, we realize we may need to make some tweaks to it, or maybe you're right, and we need to make some tweaks to how we're making our games as opposed to tweaking spectate.
Yeah, I mean, we'll figure it out. But the core implementation allows, you know, pretty easy tweaking on top of this. It's this whole thing of there are people who are not in the game officially, but they are getting some sort of visual data from the game. And the client knows that it's spectating, so it doesn't do things like hover, like change the pointer on things that it can click on because it knows it can't click on anything. Stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'll watch the video and I'll take a look at the code. I'll like take a look at the merged PR to see what was changed maybe, so that I can get a feel for it.
Yeah, there's a client side change and a server side change, so there's quite a bit there. But it like I said, it's not overly complicated or overly whatever. It's just that it's kind of the full end to end of like the client needs to know about it. It needs to have a certain like message protocol to be able to know that it's a spectator, and the game knows that it's a spectator, and then the ability to kind of quickly move between them, and stuff like that. So ran into a bunch of bugs while I was implementing it, and there's still some bugs for sure, but yeah, it works, kind of.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm very excited for Spectate.
Yeah.
So good job.
Thanks. And then, yeah, like I said, I've finally got these are the old phones I used in that demo, but like my 8-year-old piece of shit Android phone and my Raspberry Pi. So my performance profiling stuff will be done this week, or starting this week. Also, really quick, I started doing, like I had mentioned last week, the Linux binaries that we produce from the builder don't run on a Raspberry Pi. And the Raspberry Pi has like an ARM processor, and so I could do something crazy on my x86 Ubuntu machine to compile for ARM, but I would need to do something insane. It might not work. And anyway, the whole thing. My point is that the easiest way to compile a binary of Homegames for a Raspberry Pi is to compile it on a Raspberry Pi. And so I did that, and part of the process was installing Node.js from source. So like cloning the Node.js repo and running make on a Raspberry Pi took like 14 hours. It was an unbelievable amount of time for it to finish, but it finished. And then I created a binary on the Pi. Didn't publish it, but I guess my point is that it's possible to make these binaries for the Raspberry Pi. It's just a more manual process.
Were you worried at all while it was running? Like, what if this doesn't work?
It was stuck at 0 for like 6 hours, and I was like, okay, well, either this thing will be on fire when I get back, or it'll be done. And it was done, thank God. It's just a little thing, and there's a single fan running in it, and it doesn't get hot, it doesn't get loud. So it might be suffering in silence. I can't really tell, but it's fine.
That really cracks me up. I've never even thought of doing it that way to get Node on anything. Like to pull it in from source and run make on it.
I didn't even do that. I was doing I didn't do it myself. It did it automatically when I ran PKG, the command line tool to create an executable. It was like, looking for the distributable, whatever for this thing, or distributable, for your platform. Didn't find it. Well, whatever. We'll just make it ourselves. So it just cloned the repo and ran make and hope for the best. And it worked. It's fucking crazy. So, I don't know.
You know, like Node is like JavaScript, but on top of C++.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that makes me realize that Node is actually just magic.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, I write this language and then a browser parses it and it works on a client, and then I also like a server parses it and it works in this other runtime thing that I don't understand. And it's like, oh, this runtime thing is written in C. Oh shit, like this is the same language across these two things that have totally different like contexts, and they have different tools available to them, but it's like the same. It's still console.log. That's why like JavaScript's fucking awesome. It gets a lot of shit, but JavaScript's fucking awesome.
I think a lot of people talk smack on JavaScript because they're like, oh, what happens if you add an array to an object? What do you get? It's a weird thing. It's like, yeah, but like,
It's like, don't.
JavaScript is kind of crazy in that it, like every other language would explode if it was supposed to be used for the web. Only JavaScript is like, oh, there was an error. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Like, I'll run anyway.
Yeah.
You sent me undefined for the function I was supposed to call. Well, that errored, but don't worry, everything else worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice though. I am stoked. On my side of things, I was supposed to have terrain done yesterday, but I ran into a couple of snags, so I'll have terrain done this Sunday.
Sunday. Very nice.
Yes.
It says terrain and why Yazeed is dumb. Did we learn things about why is Yazeed dumb? I'm not making the claim. I'm simply asking the question.
So I forgot that in JavaScript, if you take an integer and you divide it by another integer, you don't automatically always get an integer. Mm-hmm. So I was like, why is my terrain so weirdly spaced on this thing? What is going on?
Was it math.floor to the rescue?
Yeah, it was math.floor to the rescue, so nice. It's better. But I want to clean up. Basically, what I need to do is I need to take a second pass through this because my algorithm is not optimized at all. So,
nice.
I need to clean it up just a little bit so that the game actually will load in a reasonable time. So you're not sitting there for like 3 minutes while this thing runs through a 4x4 square version of the 100% board every second for 500 seconds as it tries to place terrain and fails.
Yeah, you got the traveling salesman problem. It's like
a little bit.
N to the nth or some shit.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is, because basically like each terrain that you attempt to place, you need to verify that every point can get to the always open point.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can't, then you have to like undo that, and sometimes that was like the last iteration to run couldn't do it. So now you've ran through your whole array, failed, and now you have to do it again, and that could fail, and you have to do it again, and that could fail. But the end result of this is I think that terrain is going to actually be kind of cool. Like, I don't just have like square, I have a version of the square where the first one, like the first node that was selected is the top left corner, and then a version where that was the top right corner, and a version was the bottom left corner, and a version was the bottom right corner. So like even though like it picks a spot, it orients the shapes. That's true about the little Z, the L, the line. I think there's one more. Square, Z, L, line. Maybe there is only 4. Anyway.
Sounds cool, though.
Thank you. And I think I'm going to pull those out. The other thing, too, is like I need to pull some stuff out, because right now it's all in one big JavaScript file, because I was like, well, I'm just going to do it. So I got to pull some of this stuff out, like the terrain generator function. So like basically it's like where it picks like what shape it's going to make and then what orientation that shape is in. I need to move that out into probably its own file as like a terrain helper file, so people can add in more terrain generating functions and in their own ways. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
that's that will be cool. Speaking of performance,
you're gonna hate when you get to that part of performance profiling. You're gonna be like, why did you see it so stupid?
Yeah, I guess my hope is that it'll be generic enough to not need to know any specifics about what you're writing, just to be able to like look at it and be like, yeah, that's fucked, but not know anything about it. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah. Right now, my thing takes in basically like your core, like your width and height of the main thing, and then the width and height of your individual terrain blocks, like how big you want those to be, and then it figures everything out from there. I think that's all it takes in off the top of my head. I could check, but it's either that alone or there's one other argument that gets passed in. So, but yes. But all it gives back to is an array that's like, you need to place a terrain block here, 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 and you just need to like iterate through the array and place them in the right spots.
Yeah. I guess for performance profiling, it'll be you, the game developer, have access to tools where when you run this thing in a browser, it'll tell you specifics about how your browser is performing, how often it's rendering stuff, and all that kind of that kind of stuff. But then also data about what it's getting from the server and how fast the server is moving. And it would be really nice if you had a graph of like your frame timing and stuff. Basically, well, I was doing 16 milliseconds a frame up until this point, which I had to spend 45 milliseconds doing something. And then you, the developer, can be like, oh, it's every time I click this. Oh, every time I click this, I'm running this like, n cubed operation that's totally fucking up everything. And this is the problem. So without knowing anything about why, it's just telling you that something is bad here. Mm-hmm. That's the hope, at least what it is in my head. I'm sure there's like several problems that I'll run into trying to implement that, but that'll be for next week. But yeah, I guess to help solve that kind of stuff.
Nice. Yes, I'm very interested to see how your performance profiling findings go.
Yeah, I also
especially after you tried to run it last time and it was like you're not using memory or processing power, but it's still running like Garbo.
Well, that was even running Make, like compiling Node.js on the Raspberry Pi. I think it maxed out at 25% CPU. So something is weird with this thing, like just looking at the activity monitor or whatever it's called. But anyway, yeah, I'll have actual kind of like JS level process stuff instead of just like what the computer is reporting, because I don't trust the Raspberry Pi's activity monitor.
Hell yeah.
No.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about for Homegames?
I don't. That was really it.
Nice.
Yeah, I have this list of stuff, and finally checked off one. I don't know. It's like another big thing I added was documentation and cleanup. So, like I mentioned, I'm probably going to finish my year stuff early, and I'm just going to use whatever extra time instead of going to like the 2022 list. I'm just going to spend the extra time to polish stuff and document stuff and make everything as like the best version of what we have possible. Like I'm not going to build anything new after this list.
Mm-hmm. Did you get a chance to take a peep at JS docs before you start your documentation stuff?
No, because that's like way last on my list. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm not actually writing any documentation because I'm sure stuff will still change. Like I still basically need to rewrite the relationship between the squisher, the game session, and the game, because they're all kind of one jumbled mess. The game doesn't know the other stuff is there, but the other stuff knows that the other stuff is there, and I feel like that's wrong. So like once that stuff is kind of clarified and finalized and cleaned up and separated and all that, then I can confidently write about what it is and how it works. But right now it's like, yo, dot this on that, and then we call dot this dot thing, and then fucking it works. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Also, like, I would like to see, I know this is a wish list item from me. I would like to see us move more towards pure functions as opposed to non-pure functions or functions with heavy use of side effects, because it's kind of difficult to write tests for stuff with a lot of side effects.
What's an example?
Most of the game functions we have built are like adding new players and stuff like that just does side effects. It's not like it returns a new array of the players. It just modifies the players or list. Like stuff like that I would like to see maybe.
How would you separate those things? How would you separate adding a player from the data structure you're adding it to?
Sorry, let me think.
This is the interview question now.
Start typing. I guess I guess maybe just like adding a return where you return the actual array so that you can do the comparison in the test as opposed to having to like dig through to find where it is in the node.
So like add players returns the player's object instead of knowing that that players is now different.
Yes. Just because it would make testing a little bit easier, because then we can start adding unit tests to like core Homegames stuff, so that we can start to like build out, like we can verify like this always will work this way, and then we can start making, when we make changes and refactor and stuff like that, we can still run those tests to make sure that it's functioning correctly. Because right now, if we like rearranged everything, right, if we like rearranged the way that the node stacks up and the player's array got moved somewhere else and you wrote your unit test to like dig through to find it, now you have to like go back and like re-dig through to find it, you know what I mean? As opposed to just that function returns it out and so you know what it is. But
yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but like dot players will always exist on the session. So like, I guess it's like, this is JavaScript, and at the end of the day, all this stuff kind of just works however you do it, and like convention kind of like goes out the window when I'm writing stuff. So it would be nice for us to just like have a goal instead of being like, fuck it if it works. So yeah, you're right. Like just having some sort of ideology when we're approaching stuff, because technically we can do anything. So it's like we just mix whatever with whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely guilty of being like, well, I'm just gonna stick in this function that does all these side effects and I'm gonna call it a day. Like I definitely have done that on Square and stuff. So I think maybe we should start to move away from that. Also, because the other thing too is it makes it easier to figure out what functions do. But you know.
But I also just can't think of many side effects that we have today. Like there are things that are a little chunky, but nothing that I can think of where like I called squish and now the client is like sideways or something. Like I don't. I guess I can't think of any of that.
I can't remember any off the top of my head, but I remember this is something I've ran into since we started working on this. So, and I think I brought this up on like at least one other podcast, but I would have to go back through and see if I could find those places again, because I just don't remember. It's been a while since I've been like looking through that stuff, right? Like I've been working on the terrain for like 2 months now or something. Stupid. So I'm an idiot.
Yeah, but no, you're right. Side effects in general are bad. That is true. But yeah, anyway, that's it for Homegames stuff, unless you had anything else.
I did not. I'm ready to move on to Song of the Week.
My Song of the Week was Bad Boy by Juice WRLD and Young Thug. What'd you think about it, Yazeed?
I kind of like this song.
Okay.
But like not in a like it's. I like this song in a way that was like, what an interestingly built song, because it's not. It's.
Doesn't have a structure in the way that like a typical song does.
Really. It's kind of all over the place, and I normally write down lyrics, but what I wanted to talk about is, why does Young Thug look so good in that outfit? I watched the music video and I was like, I've literally never seen a music video from like anything really. There's only like been 2 other music videos I've ever seen where I was like, that looks like a pretty sick outfit actually. But Young Thug in that one is like the black turtleneck, the like white button down, the like blazer with the like really muted design on it, because it's like a black blazer with like black design built into it. And I was like, why does he look so good in that, Joseph? I don't understand.
Young Thug looks good in everything he wears. It's fucking insane. He doesn't have any bad outfits. He's got this one picture that I want to get framed. He's like stepping onto a private jet, and he's got this coat on and some like fur Gucci slippers, and then a double cup of lean as he's getting onto his private jet. Jeez. And he's just like, it's like chef's kiss. That man is a walking like painting, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Also from the music video, I got Insane Clown Posse flashbacks from everybody having the like clown paint on, and I was like, ugh. But the song was interesting. It's not like a song that I've heard. I can't imagine describing this song in terms of other songs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Like the beat is kind of like that screechy guitar or whatever. I also think it's just crazy. Like Juice WRLD, this is one of the, I think the last songs that he recorded before he died, but it was like Jesus Christ.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it, okay? I didn't say it, but I did forget, okay?
The fact that Juice WRLD freestyled everything that he did is pretty crazy, because the flow of the way that he delivers the lines, the like double time, that when like, and then whatever in that beat you wouldn't really expect. So it's just one of those, like, it makes you sad, because he was like really good at making songs, and this is a song that he did good at making. It's like, fuck, man. But yeah, I'm glad you kind of enjoyed it. And the fact that the last minute of the song is Young Thug going, rah, rah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. The song feels less like a song and more like an art piece, if that makes sense. More like, I would never sit down to listen to this song, but if I went to like an art museum, they're like, here's a performance piece, I'd be like, this is a good performance piece.
Yeah. You'd rub the chin with a eyebrow raised while you.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'd be sipping my espresso, my tiny cup of espresso, where you can only put like your finger and your forefinger and thumb together to like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Yes. My song of the week was "Home" by Islandis, though.
It was. So this song, I played it, and for the first 30 seconds, I was like, I really like this. This is maybe a running theme or whatever, but it's kind of like a meditative, repetitive thing, kind of like a soft vibe coming in early. And then it stays there. And then it stays there still. Minute 2, minute 3, minute 3.5. I had the yawns going. 3 minutes, 45 seconds. I was looking at the timer like, Jesus, hurry up. Like, I get it. You've been saying this for 45 seconds. And by the end of it, it had worn out its welcome to the point where I no longer want to hear this song ever again. So it was a very quick character arc for this song. Started out really strong. I liked it a lot, but by the end of it, I kind of just wanted to get the fuck out of here.
I think this is like one of those defining differences between us. Like, there's not many, but the ones that are there are like very stark. Where it's like, I really like repetitive, mellow songs, and you hate mellow.
I love repetitive, and I love mellow. Repetitive and mellow really put me to sleep. That, like, to me is a lullaby. Repetitive and energetic is like, Playboy Cardi music or whatever. Repetitive and energetic and then long, that's a problem too, because shit can't overstay its welcome. This song overstays its welcome by like 3 minutes and 49 seconds.
That's the other thing too, is I really like very long songs. Sometimes it's hard for me because I don't know how often I actually put this in the main podcast, but it's like, I'll like a song that's like 8 minutes long, and I'm like, well, I can't make Joseph listen to eight minutes of this because he'll want to die.
Yeah,
he'll cancel the song of the week portion if I keep doing this to him.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I need changes. I need shifts. I need something to keep my attention in a song. Otherwise, it's like, why am I even playing this song? Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, like I said, this is one of those stark differences between us, where I love when I don't have to worry about shifts in it. I can just smooth listen to it.
Don't have to worry about the song getting interesting. I know it's going to be this for 4 minutes. Thank God.
Well, yeah, but I like that for 4 minutes. That's what I'm into.
That's fine. I respect it.
Do you have anything else for Song of the Week? Because I actually do have a rapid fire question.
Oh, nice. No, I don't have anything else for Song of the Week.
All right, rapid fire question time. How often do you change your desktop background?
I was just thinking about this. That is so crazy. I was looking at my desktop background probably yesterday or the day before, and I was like, what the fuck even is this? I think it's a man looking at a large cliff. Like, he's at the bottom of the cliff looking at the cliff like this is a task, you know? But I think it's been on here. I think it might be a Windows stock one. See, my problem is that my monitor is an ultra wide, so there aren't a lot of wallpapers you'd find are 16:9. So I don't like to cut off edges. So I would either need to zoom in to an existing photo and make it look blurrier, or I would need to pick something from the very limited 21:9 wallpaper selection. So I just end up with some bullshit I don't care about, like man looking at cliff, and that's been on there for 2 years. So my answer is 2 years. I'm about to change it.
Nice. I'm interested to see what you change. Mine was a beach, a black sand beach with some pebbles in it.
Nice.
For a long time, and then I found another wallpaper, which is a picture of Yosemite from pretty recent, and it's like a real winter in the mountains style vibe with like heavy fog and forested and stuff, and I was like, I'm into this. Nice. And I picked it, but every time my screen starts up, I'm expecting the like upper right hand corner like Windows, like, do you want to learn more about this? When really, like, that's just my background. So every time it really trips me up. So I was curious if you've ever ran into that, but it sounds like you've been rolling in the 2-year-old man looking at cliff vibes.
Yeah, it's like it just kind of fades into my my head to the point where I don't think about it anymore. It's like that thing where if I took a picture of your room or if I changed one thing about your room and I took a picture and I showed you, would you be able to tell me what's different? I'd probably be like, no, because I look at this thing every day. But then the other day I was just, whatever, I had a moment where I decided to pay attention and I saw what my wallpaper was and I was like, this is not me. This is not true to me. I need to do something about this.
I'm going to be honest. I was very surprised when you said it was a man looking at a cliff.
Yeah.
And I 100% believed that you had a Peanuts wallpaper.
Like Charlie Brown and stuff?
Yeah.
No, I don't remember ever having one of those. I do like Charlie Brown, which is just...
I don't know why, but I went into this question thinking like, okay, Joseph has like a Charlie Brown themed wallpaper. Okay, all right.
The one I had on my laptop for the longest time, for like 5 years, was a overview of New York City, like a helicopter shot of New York City. That was super cool. But yeah, no. I'm trying to get into a life. Were you using a rain meter or whatever it was?
I was, yeah.
Automatic changing, crazy, overly complex customization stuff.
Yes, but it started to eat up my processing power on my old build, so I gave up on that. And my new build, I'm like, I don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same reason I don't like Android or anything like that. It's like, yeah, I could customize things and dig around in menus and not touch my config for 6 months, and then something is broken when an OS update happens, and fucking, I don't know. This is all stupid. I'm just gonna not, even though it might be cool.
For me, yeah, part of the thing for me on the rain meter stuff is like what I was setting it up to do is to like quickly link out to stuff, because I don't always know where on my computer certain things are. Mm-hmm. But I ended up just writing a command line tool to do that for me, so I just use that. Yeah. And then I was using it to check weather, but your phone is way easier to check weather on than to boot up your computer. Yeah. So what is the point anymore of rain meter? But the rain meter is separate. It's still popping off, but I don't know why.
People like to customize stuff, man. I don't know. Speaking of weird communities, I found myself scrolling through the Steam hentai collection today. And there's like a huge community for that as well. People you just like wouldn't think is such a big thing in 2021. People looking for another match 3 hentai game, but there's hundreds of people looking for that very thing right now.
Oh, kind of amazing. Speaking of communities, I mentioned this in the part of the podcast before we started the podcast. When I was looking at the Airsoft community subreddit, and let me tell you something about looking at that subreddit in particular is a lot of the other subreddits I have, like, they'll be like, oh yeah, here's like my new surfboard. And you're like, wow, that's really cool. Or they'll be like, here's my very expensive collection of surfboards. And it's like 2 surfboards. Mm-hmm. On the Airsoft thing, they're like, here's full like counterterrorism armor. Like not even replica, like just the straight up actual armor they wear. And like 480 guns, individual guns. Each of those cost a couple of hundred, plus the Airsoft and the CO2 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And every time I've looked at that subreddit, I'm like, these people make either make more money than me or have no savings account or something, because where are they getting the funds to fund this hobby is my question.
I don't know. I'm kind of fascinated by airsoft people, but not because of like it just seems like it requires so much commitment, like to buy all that stuff and then to meet up with people in person to shoot things like to like airsoft pellets
Shoot
like,
each other, really.
They hurt. Like getting shot by one of those things fucking hurts. And even if you have the face gear or whatever, I've gone airsofting once and it was a terrible experience. But even if you have the face gear, stuff can hit you and then stuff ricochets off of walls and hits you. And it's like, even after all this, it might have been a workout, but this shit was not fun. And I'm mad at Yazeed now because he shot me in the fucking cheeks. I told him no headshots, motherfucker.
All right, well, I'll just scratch one off the old bachelor party list. No airsoft is what I've learned.
We could airsoft, it'd be fine. But I guess my other experience was so bad because it was a team building event for my job, and I had to do it with coworkers, and I had just met them that week. So like shooting someone and then like hey, we're all just having fun here. Sorry if it hurts you, but like we're all buddies. That shit does not exist when you just met someone.
Yeah.
Or haven't met anybody yet. You're just like, oh yeah, hey, I'm your coworker. We don't know each other yet, but like, blip, blip. You know what I mean?
Get him with the blicky.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Nah, that's kind of a joke. I have not figured out what to do for your bachelor party yet. I'm actually just gonna crowdsource that onto the other groomsmen to help me because I don't know what is even available during COVID. So you know.
Honestly, I don't even need a bachelor party.
Nah, you need a bachelor party. I want to see you turn.
I could get turned on whatever any night, you know.
Yeah, but I want to see you get turned. There's a difference.
Yeah, just bring me a bottle of any whiskey, and it'll happen. I'll make it happen for you.
This is just like a really minor side note. When you cook, do you use like a wine to deglaze your pans?
No, only when I'm doing fancy shit. So never.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't use cooking wine, so I have cranberry juice, but I haven't done that yet because I've never had a recipe to do it. But the one that I read, they were like you could replace the wine with like cranberry juice, and I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
But there's just like nothing I make that needs it. I was just curious.
No, yeah, Synovia's cooked with wine a few times, and that's always really fancy. It feels a lot fancier, even if I can't taste the difference. When I see her pour a little bit of wine, it's like, oh shit, okay.
I hope you say that to her when she does it.
Kinda, yeah. You always have to acknowledge it.
Right on. All right, that is all from me. I don't know if you got anything.
Nope. That is going to do it for us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, our music is done by our friend Tynan. He is at Nightan on Bandcamp. That's Nightan, Nytan. We have a website at homegames.io. We're on Twitter at homegames.io. And we have an email address, which is podcast@homegames.io, if you would like your questions or comments or concerns or whatever read on the podcast. That's going to do it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.